So out of the 17 minutes of my life that I've been welding, I've learned quite a bit of things. And I'm pretty good at welding when the metal is flat and when I'm just using a MIG welder and nothing's really too tricky. I can do pretty well, make things look pretty good. And especially if I can shift something to where I can kind of get it into a comfortable position, I can weld pretty well. But what I'm building today is a welding stand, and what that's going to allow me to do is practice welding at a position. So instead of just being able to just weld straight down, I'm actually going to be able to put metal up in the air and in different positions and things like that. So I'll be able to start practicing different welds. And the reason I definitely want to get better at welding is because I'm going to be doing a few projects. One specifically is a trailer, so I want to make sure that I don't mess that up. And the trailer's kind of big, so I'm not going to be able to just flip it over and weld the deck and everything on there and then flip it back over. So there's some different welds that I'm going to have to use on there that I want to make sure that are definitely secure so I don't go kill somebody or myself. I'm just under 6 foot tall, so I'm going to make my stand about 7 feet tall. So that'll kind of give me the overhead position to weld and kind of maybe get me a little bit uncomfortable. When I started out welding, I would just find any type of scrap metal that I could find, and this project's going to be no different. It's just a piece of pipe that I have laying around, and it's pretty heavy, so the welding stand shouldn't move around a whole lot. I used to use cutting oil on my bandsaw when I was cutting metal before, but I switched to this Anchorlube, and this stuff isn't really messy. Wherever you put it is kind of where it stays, but that cutting oil, you'd put it on the blade and then it would just go all over. So I really do like this stuff. It doesn't smoke when you cut. It's water-based, and so when you get done cutting, you can just wipe it off and you're ready to weld. So I set up a 2x4 and one of these 3-inch pieces of pipe. It's pretty level for my bandsaw, but what this allows me to do is just roll the pipe back and forth when I'm making a bunch of little cuts. It's worked for me pretty well. This is just regular black pipe. I'm going to cut a 3-inch section, and I'll explain what it's going to be used for later. And I'm also going to cut a 6-inch piece of 2-inch by 2-inch angle iron. I'm going to have to make a few contoured cuts to prepare the metal to fit together tightly, but there's a few spots that don't need to be cut out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind off any place that could just be welded now and just get it prepped. I don't recommend doing this, but I do it. I use those flat cutoff wheels to grind off the metal. I use those because it gets the galvanizing and all the paint and all the garbage off really quick. You don't really want to use those because they have a chance of kind of exploding. So that's why I'm going to be wearing double eye protection and have the safety glasses on as well as the mask. Anytime you're cutting with one of these discs, obviously you want to have the guard on and you want to make sure that you have a mask on along with eye protection. I'd recommend getting one of these welding masks you can wear underneath your welding helmet, and especially when you grind off this galvanizing and things like that, you definitely want to make sure that you're wearing something so you're not breathing all this garbage in. The way I measured the cutout contour for the pipe isn't exact, but it's going to get me close for this project. It's not perfect, but it'll be close enough for what I need to do here. I'm going to fit the base together and get it tack welded and everything squared up, and then I'll go ahead and weld it together, and then I'll put the upright in place. I'm going to be using my Millermatic 211 to weld all this together, but when I started out, all I did is I went and got the cheap Harbor Freight welder, and like I said, just found any piece of metal I could find, welded things together, and when it didn't work out, I'd get back on YouTube and maybe just see what I did wrong and try to get some tips for some other people. I'm welding a nut to the pipe so I can screw a bolt through the nut and hold the bracket in place. I'm gonna build some different brackets to hang metal from. So in the future, I'll probably make one of these that has like a table on it and some different things. Whatever I plan on welding, I just want to set something up so that I can practice welding it before I actually go weld on whatever I'm going to be welding. So for instance, on my trailer, I can take a couple pieces of scrap here and mimic the main beam that's going down the trailer, one of the main beams that's going down the trailer. And then as I put my cross members on here, what I want to do is I want to weld this area right here, because whenever you're building a trailer, you don't want to weld across the main cross members, or the main beams going down the trailer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my cross members here, and I'm going to work on welding here. And so when I go to put all my cross members on, I'll be really good at doing this weld here. I was going to weld a handle to the bolt in the back, and I still might, but for as often as I'm going to be moving these little brackets up and down, they're going to hold my metal, I can just use the 14mm wrench. So I'm really not good at vertical welding either, and so this bracket here is going to be sufficient for what I'm going to need to practice my vertical welds. So the idea here is I can just start here and just work my way up, and after I've got a bead all the way up, I can just start again and just keep practicing as much as I need to practice. I'm not super great at welding around pipe as well, so having a setup like this will also help if I just want to run a bead around for a little ways. And if I want to do something different, I can always hook more metal to this and then hook up my pipe off from maybe another piece of angle iron or something like that. So I think there's a bunch of different combinations I can use with just this bracket. And then, like I said, in the future, there's other things that I want to do as well. So building this welding stand and getting a little bit of welding practice is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And now that I'm getting ready to get that trailer built and do some other welding projects that are going to be a little bit more tricky of welds, I definitely want to get some practice in and prepare to do those projects. And just something that helped me when I started welding, I went to Harbor Freight, just got one of those cheap wire welders, and just started laying beads down, tried to weld stuff together. Stuff wouldn't work. I'd hop on YouTube. Okay, what did I do wrong? And then go back, try to weld everything again. And then once I got good at that, I'll work on something else. And so I think especially with welding, it's one of those things like just admit that you're not super great at it yet. Or if you're just starting out, just know that there's a ton of stuff to learn and then just start getting better at things. And then after a while, you'll get really comfortable. There's a lot of welds I'm really comfortable at, and there's tons of welds I'm not comfortable at that I definitely want to get better at. So I suggest making something like this. I don't care about Harbor Freight. I kind of care about people learning things. So I would definitely go out to Harbor Freight, get a cheap little welder, and just clean up some scrap metal that you can get from wherever and weld on it, and then just get better at that. And I think once you get a good idea of how to weld, you'll start finding more and more uses for welding. So that does it for this video. We're so grateful for everyone to support our channel, and thanks for watching.